Millions of years ago, the skies above South America belonged to something almost impossible. It was not a dragon. And it was not a dinosaur. It was a bird. A bird so massive that scientists once questioned whether it could even fly at all. Yet somehow, it conquered the skies for millions of years. Carried by the wind itself, Argentavis became one of the largest flying creatures the world has ever seen. And its story is unlike anything alive today. Argentavis was not simply a large bird. It was a creature that pushed flight to its absolute limit. Its wings stretched nearly 7 meters across the sky. Wider than many modern cars are long. And weighing more than 70 kilograms, Argentavis remains the heaviest flying bird ever discovered. Even the mighty Andean condor looked small beside it. To the animals below, its shadow would have felt like the arrival of a storm. Every movement through the air demanded enormous amounts of energy. Every landing carried the force of a falling predator. And every takeoff was a struggle against gravity itself. Yet somehow, this giant still mastered the skies. Scientists believe Argentavis spent most of its life soaring above the plains of prehistoric Argentina, drifting through thermal winds for hours without flapping its wings. It did not fly with speed or agility like an eagle. Instead, it moved with terrifying efficiency. Like a living glider built by evolution itself. A giant carried not by strength alone, but by the invisible power of the wind. For a creature this massive, flight should have been nearly impossible. Argentavis weighed several times more than most modern flying birds. Its wings were enormous. But its body was enormous too. The larger an animal becomes, the harder it is to leave the ground. Gravity punishes size. And Argentavis was pushing against the absolute limits of flight itself. Scientists believe it could not flap its wings continuously like smaller birds. Its muscles simply were not built for endless powered flight. Instead, Argentavis relied on a far more efficient strategy. It became a master of soaring. Using giant thermal currents rising from the hot plains below, the bird could remain airborne for hours while barely moving its wings. In many ways, Argentavis behaved more like a living glider than a traditional bird. The wind carried its weight across enormous distances. But takeoff was the real challenge. To launch into the air, Argentavis likely needed strong headwinds or steep slopes. A calm day could become deadly for such a giant. Without enough wind, escaping the ground demanded terrifying amounts of energy. Every successful takeoff was a battle against gravity. Yet once airborne, Argentavis transformed into something extraordinary. Silent. Effortless. Untouchable. A giant shadow drifting through the skies of prehistoric South America. Millions of years ago, Argentina looked very different from the world we know today. Vast dry grasslands stretched endlessly beneath the Miocene sun. Warm winds rolled across open plains and rocky hills, and high above them all, Argentavis ruled the skies. Most of its life was spent in the air, gliding silently across enormous distances in search of food. Scientists believe a single Argentavis may have controlled a territory larger than hundreds of square kilometers. It drifted through the sky for hours with almost no effort, barely flapping its wings, watching the world below with incredible patience. From the ground, the bird would have appeared almost supernatural. A giant shadow moving slowly across the clouds. The plains below were filled with strange prehistoric mammals. Herds moved through dusty valleys searching for water and safety. And wherever death appeared, Argentavis was never far away. It likely spent much of its time searching for carcasses scattered across the landscape. Using its incredible eyesight, the giant bird could detect opportunity from enormous distances. Some scientists believe Argentavis may also have stolen kills from smaller predators, intimidating them through size alone. Few animals would dare challenge something this enormous. But life for Argentavis was not fast or aggressive. It was calm, efficient, patient. Every movement was designed to conserve energy. Because survival for a giant depended on balance. Too much effort could become deadly. Even reproduction was slow. Argentavis may have raised only 1 or 2 chicks every several years. The young likely needed many years before reaching full maturity. But in a stable world filled with wind and open skies, the strategy worked. For millions of years, Argentavis remained one of the undisputed masters of the prehistoric heavens. But what exactly did Argentavis eat? Was it an active predator? Or was it something far more opportunistic? Scientists still debate the true nature of this sky giant. Its massive body made high-speed hunting extremely difficult. Argentavis was not built for sudden attacks like an eagle or falcon. Instead, many researchers believe it survived primarily as a scavenger, drifting across enormous territories in search of death below. In the prehistoric plains of South America, carcasses were valuable resources. And Argentavis may have become one of the greatest scavengers the world had ever seen. With eyesight powerful enough to detect food from incredible distances, the giant bird rarely needed to rush. It simply waited, watching, circling high above the landscape until opportunity appeared. But Argentavis may not have been completely harmless. Some scientists believe it occasionally hunted small animals when given the chance. Weak prey, injured mammals, vulnerable creatures unable to escape. Yet perhaps its most terrifying behavior was not hunting, but stealing. Argentavis may have used its immense size to intimidate other predators away from their kills. Even smaller terror birds may have avoided confrontation with such a massive creature. A single spread of its enormous wings could have been enough to end most conflicts instantly. It did not need speed. It did not need sharp aerial attacks. Its power came from presence alone. A silent giant descending from the sky to claim whatever it wanted. In the world of Argentavis, size itself was a weapon. And few creatures could challenge the ruler of the ancient skies. But even the ruler of the skies was not untouchable. Far below Argentavis, another nightmare dominated the land. The terror birds. Giant flightless predators built for speed, power, and violence. South America during the Miocene was isolated from much of the world. And in that isolated land, strange predators evolved into terrifying forms. Some terror birds stood over 3 meters tall, armed with massive hooked beaks capable of crushing flesh and bone. They hunted across open plains like living dinosaurs. Fast, aggressive, relentless. One of the largest among them was Devincenzia, a predator powerful enough to dominate most animals on the ground. Even Argentavis likely treated these hunters with caution. In the air, Argentavis was nearly untouchable. But on the ground, everything changed. Its enormous wings became awkward, heavy, vulnerable. A failed takeoff near a terror bird could have been fatal. Scientists believe Argentavis depended heavily on open terrain and strong winds for survival. Because without the sky, its greatest advantage disappeared instantly. The terror birds ruled through direct violence. Argentavis ruled through size, patience, and the power of flight. Two different giants. Two different nightmares. Sharing the same ancient world. One mastered the earth below. The other conquered the endless skies above. And together, they transformed prehistoric South America into one of the strangest ecosystems Earth has ever seen. For millions of years, Argentavis seemed unstoppable. It mastered the winds of an ancient world. It crossed enormous distances with barely a movement of its wings. And high above the earth, few creatures could challenge its dominance. But evolution has a cruel rule. No creature remains perfectly adapted forever. Argentavis was built for a very specific world. A world of open plains, powerful thermal winds, and endless space to soar. Every part of its body depended on those conditions. Its enormous wings, its soaring flight, its slow, energy-efficient lifestyle. Even its reproduction was dangerously slow. Argentavis may have raised only a few young during its lifetime. And those young likely needed many years before reaching maturity. In a stable world, that strategy worked perfectly. But stable worlds do not last forever. Over time, climates changed. Landscapes shifted. Winds changed direction. Ecosystems transformed. And giant specialists like Argentavis became increasingly vulnerable. A creature built for efficiency often struggles to adapt quickly. The very traits that once made Argentavis extraordinary may have eventually become weaknesses. Its massive size limited flexibility. Its dependence on soaring conditions limited survival. And its slow reproduction made recovery difficult. Little by little, the skies that once carried Argentavis began to change. Until eventually, the giant disappeared forever. Not because it was weak, but because the world no longer belonged to creatures like it. Today, nothing like Argentavis exists anywhere on Earth. No living bird carries the sky the way this giant once did. The age of the sky titans is long gone. And yet, for millions of years, Argentavis achieved something almost impossible. It conquered the heavens with a body too massive for flight. It crossed endless prehistoric skies carried by wind alone. Silent above the world below. Watching ancient South America from heights few creatures could ever reach. It was not the fastest hunter, nor the deadliest predator. But it became one of evolution's greatest experiments. A living giant suspended between earth and sky. And perhaps that is why Argentavis still fascinates us today. Because it reminds us that nature once created creatures beyond imagination. Creatures so strange and magnificent. They almost feel unreal.